To license it.
Welcome to the special edition where we are celebrating the 30 years of community media in South Africa. It is also coinciding with the World Radio Day, and today we're reflecting on the impacts, the challenges, and the future of community radio, which has been a powerful voice for the people of South Africa. Joining me are some of the key figures who have shaped and supported this sector over the years. Tonight, I'm joined by Powerhouse, call her rather a powerhouse of broadcasting, a stalwart in making. She is the Media Development and Diversity Agency CEO, seasoned journalist, and the former executive of Prime Media. Please welcome Shweshwe Ku. Shweshwe Kotsong, how are you doing tonight?
I think you left out that I'm also your lecturer.
Absolutely. How could I forget that?
I'm a teacher, particularly in the area of community media, community broadcasting, and new and emerging for technology for radio. So I'm also very excited to be here and very excited to see how you are doing in your work and you are growing in the space. And hats on to everyone else who's listening, and happy World Radio Day. I think radio has stood the test of time and has produced really amazing talent, but also has been a companion to many. So we really can't take that for granted.
Absolutely, Shweshwe. I wouldn't have said it better. Today, this morning, I spoke to Dr. Gabriel, who I called him the godfather of community radio in South Africa because he's the founder of Bush Radio. Back in the day, I think I was also a kid at that time. I was so inspired by the history that he came with. But tonight, I'm talking to you tonight. Please, Sis Shweshwe, share your journey from starting as a volunteer, a field reporter at Radio Zibonile in the Western Cape, and to becoming the CEO of MDDA. How have these experiences shaped your vision for the agency?
No, thank you. You know, I think the MDDA is a statutory institution formed as a part of a partnership between the government and the private sector being the broadcasters that are commercial and the print houses. I think we've got objectives that are very clear in what our role is in the media development and diversity landscape within South Africa. And that really is the vision that I would say I am anchored in as CEO, working with the board, working with the executive authority in the form of the minister, as well as other stakeholders within the that are regulators, other implementing agencies, other partners that make community media vibrant. How my journey starts to where I end up now as CEO of the MDDA, when we are having this conversation, really, I would say, started even before I was a community-based journalist at Radio Zibonile, another old community radio station in this country that's also celebrating 30 years since it was licensed, is from home when all we accessed was hearing the radio and its ability to have brought voices that were unfamiliar, news and information that came from far, and just trying to seek stations and find one that you can listen to at any particular time of the day. So I would say that from the formative years and the exposure to the medium of radio really helped me to get to where I got. So when I stumbled onto radio in my adult life, I was doing performance theater in the Western Cape. And there was in an audience, one of the audience members was a station manager at Radio Zibonele, and I happened to have just one line in Sesotho. And the station at that time was looking for a Sesotho newsreader. One of the things that we must admire about community media in South Africa is the fact that it broadcasts in so many languages. You have Highway Africa, and one could be listening in and hearing a show in English, in isiZulu. So that vibrancy in the variety of the indigenous languages that come out of these community radio stations are so empowering and build resonance with audience members. But they also provided an opportunity for me to get onto radio, because speaking the Sesotho language in the Western Cape isn't something that's common. And it wasn't easy for Radio Zibonele to find the Sesotho newsreader, who I happened to not have been at the time. I was just a theater performer who was really good in the Sesotho language. I still am, if I can say so myself. And I grew into the medium, and I loved everything about it. I was doing a diploma in electrical engineering. I pivoted towards media studies and journalism, acquiring a diploma in journalism later on, and moving on to go and get a master, a BA in marketing, and then honors also in strategic brand, and all of the other qualifications I've accumulated over the years as I currently try and study further to upskill myself in understanding community media, more specifically, and its role in deepening democracy in a country like ours that's developmental.
Wow, that's so fascinating, Asheshe, because when we are looking at 30 years back, we were just kids back then, but today here we are, and we are reflecting this with the next few leaders and people who are going to take this forward, which is probably our kids, our nieces, our younger family members and community members. Now let's take a look, Asheshe, reflect on the 30 years. How has the MDDA contributed to the growth and the diversification of community media in South Africa? I'm laughing because when I spoke to Mr. Mtimde, I believe it was about, if not 7 or 10 years back, he was the CEO of the MDDA back then. He was one who used to make me say this word. He says, Portia, MDDA is about diversification of broadcasting in the community. So that's where it got stuck in my mind. But let's reflect back. How much of the MDDA has contributed to the growth of this sector?
So the MDDA has been on now, or was founded a little bit later than the establishment of community media itself. So the sector in itself has been in existence in longer than the MDDA has been. It doesn't mean, however, that there was no support or government intervention before the MDDA was formed. There was support provided through the Department of Communication at the time. For the MDDA, I think what's important to highlight in the contribution that we've made, where community media broadcasting, more specifically radio, is concerned, is that the agency has supported over 361 of these projects where we've brought in studio equipment, state-of-the-art studio equipment, not different from what the commercial broadcasters have. The agency has provided training in forms of capacity building in various areas. We are recently focusing on providing accredited training, because we also understand that the majority or some community-based journalists and media practitioners will walk into a radio station and would not necessarily have the skills at the time. And so as a part of contributing towards skills development and creating opportunities for them to grow, the agency is also focusing on, can we get more accredited training for community-based broadcasters so that they learn skills that not only help them in the community radio stations they're in, but they're able to move forward. So over and above the trainings and the capacity building workshops that we run, we introduced an accredited broadcast technical training last year. And this year, as we celebrate 30 years of community radio in the country, which aligns with our closure, or where we are coming to the end of the 30 years of democracy, the agency will continue to emphasize the element of capacity building. And also, once community-based broadcasters are capacitated, Portia, they will be able to provide quality content and information to the audience members that they're speaking to. I think it's important to highlight that while community radio in itself needs to improve and needs to sustain, and I will reflect on sustainability a little bit later on, we have to recognize the importance of the work that it does, its ability to grant everyone access to information. And so the element of providing this training for community broadcasters and journalists ensures that the information that the community journalists and the broadcasters are sharing are credible, is sensible, is important, and also is value adding to the audiences who are members of the community who wouldn't ordinarily have access to the information if not for it being broadcast or made available at this community radio station. But having said that, I do want to highlight also that in the 30 years, the agency has also done research, and there's been a number of challenges that I think we have to deal with. And the MDDA has put in place programs, if you could say, to try and respond to these challenges. However, the sustainability of the sector remains a big issue. And this is something that we have to correct, because what you will find is that at the start of the licensing in 1995, when community radio stations came on board, some of those community radio stations have since closed because they were unable to maintain the cost of transmission or pay the fees to Centec because they are expensive sometimes, and their advertising revenue isn't able to cover the cost at that level. They were unable, for example, to pay salaries or stipends. They're unable to pay rent where they are, or so there's a number of challenges that plague the sector, in addition to just the need for funding and concerted effort, not just from government, but also from the private sector to help towards sustainability. But I want to just reflect briefly on the sustainability report that the agency launched last year. It found that 74% of community or small commercial broadcasters are sustainable, partially sustainable, and 19% are unsustainable, completely unsustainable, and only 7% of them are sustainable. So you can say that while we celebrate the achievements and we celebrate this role of community media in deepening democracy, in driving social cohesion, in providing opportunities for young people to enter the world of work and experience what it's like to work in the sector, there are some challenges, and I think there is a need then to have a concerted effort in addressing those challenges.
So let's move to this one. The programs you just mentioned, the very, very powerful ones that I've just noted, the skills development that are accredited. Are there any specific programs that you have running or upcoming that are aimed at promoting the inclusion as well as diversity of our society? I'm looking at this, especially I'm looking at how far and how much of digital space is also taking up the space. I've seen many of government organizations that are allowing podcasts, so many other digital platforms and work that is done there. Now, the question is, what is the future looking like around that?
So I must first declare that I'm a technology enthusiast. And I think that artificial intelligence is here to stay, and I think we must embrace these tools as they come along. And I think we must explore using these tools for efficiency in the work that we do. For people who are working at a community radio station, I'm expecting that they are sub-editing their stories and ideating using some of these generative AI tools. But I also must caution that while we are enthusiastic about technology, its access, and the possibilities that it comes with, there's also some among our community members who are unable to access these technological tools and the platforms. Access because of the cost to use the technologies or cost of internet connectivity. Access because of the language that is used in those technological platforms. And access because of the type of technologies, the way the apps work. They are also coded in English. We don't have the skills that need to assist us to be able to participate fully in that space. However, having said that, I also want to add that there's opportunities for training for community journalists. Yes, there's programs that the MDDA runs, but there's also the National Electronic Media Institute of South Africa, NEMISA, which has programs that are specifically tailored for digital skills within the media landscape. It includes apps, graphics design, and I think it's also important to also look at those. Where we are as an agency, the board of the MDDA has approved a digitalization of the sector strategy. Now, the way we are approaching this is in a scalable manner, but we are also looking at what the limitations are and where the opportunities are. And the commitment is that we are not leaving anyone behind. We want to take the communities along on this journey where we are digitalizing and we are making radio stations accessible in more than just the FM platforms. So I'm very excited about that. And I think that the strategic direction that the board of the agency is bringing in is indicative of the direction also that the country is taking in terms of our digitalization and our ICT framework. So all of that is very exciting. So yes, the MDDA currently is reviewing its processes or is reviewing its framework, particularly where funding is concerned, to look at how we can support podcasters or those who are using the new and emerging technologies for distribution of content. Of course, it comes with a lot of risks. Often these podcasters are just one person and one company. So all of those considerations we are making, but I'm excited to say that we've moved a step to ensure that we are also in that space. Another, I suppose, opportunity and challenge that comes with digitalization for the media specifically is this diminishing number of audiences on the traditional media platforms like FM, including on the print publications, which has also influenced where the advertising revenue is going towards. And this speaks again back to that issue of sustainability for the broadcasters, which we spoke about. So you will then see that it is impossible for us to not look at technology and where it's taking us because of how pervasive it is and how influential it has been in the way that we do our work and in the way that the media is able to build and sustain itself, not just community, by the way, including the commercial broadcasters and publications.
There we go, podcasters and all the digital people coming into play. Sister Shay, at my station, we're currently running a feature that is talking about AI use. We're teaching, we're educating, we're upskilling people on air. not only just AI, but we calling on people from your townships, from rural areas as well, to say, come through, and we go there to those areas and meet the people and bring along stakeholders that are actually responsible with tech and stuff. Towards the end of last year, we were with them in one of at least two schools in here in Durban, and it was wonderful to see the faces of children who are being taught robotics using devices that were sponsored by this wonderful cell phone company that I'm not going to mention. So in the space of radio, there's so much more that we can do, but it's not just only for us. It's for the community. I'm always emphasizing it's always about what the community really needs. And the digital side of it, I mean, it's the sky is the limit there.
And that's true, Portia, that community stations are well placed to teach community members.
Right.
Because you will be able to teach them in a way and manner that they would understand the issues better compared to a university professor, for example. So, and as I say that is important that you've taken up that role, that you are sharing the information, that it's not just for you, it's for your audience members, your listeners as well. So I'm sure they're grateful to have you or to have the station, and for this ability for them to even know what ChatGPT, for example, is. So I think that's something that's very important and very encouraging, even for us as an entity at the MDDA, to see that community radio stations aren't just broadcasting, but they are also actively educating community members on issues that affect them and technologies that are emerging, because that also assists in ensuring that there's accessibility to information and accessibility to these technological tools and ability to use them.
Asheshe, I'm not going to leave this question. I'm just going to sound like JJ for a moment here. You took the helm of the agency last year in 2024 early. We do understand when we know that the agency has faced some challenges in the previous years or the recent years. This included the financial management issues. So have you been able to put some measures in place to address this and also to restore confidence in the agency?
Thank you very much for that question, Portia, and I really do appreciate it. I must say that the board of the MDDA has been very supportive. I did indeed join the agency in 2024, and there's been a need for us to improve our audit outcomes and build confidence with the various stakeholders that we work with. And this we do on a continuous basis. It doesn't mean that the challenges disappear, but there's an effort for us to continuously improve controls and ensure that there's accountability, there's transparency within the agency. And I think that we have moved towards that. I think the agency has certainly, through the leadership of the current board, has definitely left some of the issues that it had in the past. And I'm hoping that in the upcoming audit period, we will see those improvement showing in the form of an audit outcome. So I'm looking forward to seeing the result of the hard work that the team within the agency has also been putting in. And having said that, Portia, I think the challenges that remain, the board of the entity is dealing with. Ours and that being ours being myself and the executive and the management of the agency are committed to ensuring that there's stability within the agency, and that we continue to perform and deliver on the annual performance targets that we've set. And we provide services to the community media sector, both publishing and broadcasting where it is community radio and community television, through the various programs that we run in intervention. We spoke about capacity building, and that also including the research and innovation that we do, the digital and literacy programs that we run within communities. So that's essentially the commitment that I can say that we are forging ahead. We are committed to ensuring that the mandate of the agency is achieved and the team is able to carry this work. And this hasn't been without the support of the board, which we are very grateful to having, I would say.
Well, Sheshe, if I'm talking about radio, I can talk the entire day and night. But please, as we wrap up, what message would you like to convey to a young aspiring journalist or a media practitioner in the community media? I know more than 30 of them that I've produced in my lifetime. I know many more that are still up and coming. They are always looking for something.
So I'll give them the same message I think I gave you when you were a student at Wits, and I am a facilitator, convener of the course, that we are in the business of telling stories. We are telling stories using sound. Technology will come and will change the medium of radio in its ability to use sound to tell stories. It is unlikely to change. And I want to say that the new and emerging technologies have opened up opportunities for you to not have to wait to work at a community radio station or even a commercial radio station. Use the opportunities now to start your podcast, do a cooperative, learn the skills, and take advantage of all of the opportunities that exist, particularly for young people in terms of training, internships. Look up fellowships, even locally and internationally, like Nieman Fellowship, Thomson Reuters workshops that they run, Radio Netherlands Training Center workshops. So I would say start first by acquiring as much skill as you possibly can, and then build on finessing that skill and ability. And do not make the mistake of thinking that radio is just the people that are on air and speaking. There are so many other career opportunities behind the scenes. There's content producers, there's script writers, there's voiceover artists, there's the technical producers who do the sound of the station. They do the sound of running the desk, they record the promos. There's the digital team, there's the marketing team, there's the sales and marketing team, or the sales team, so immerse yourself in what the medium of broadcasting and radio offers and learn as many skills as possible until you find the one that you are saying, I am very good at this one and I will grow into it and develop further and even become an expert in it. It might not be where you might have wanted or started off as, but I would say embrace that journey. I didn't get into the opportunities that are in the newsroom, the writers, the journalists on the field, the sub-editors, the people who are making decisions on which stories goes on air, the editors, the news anchors who are reading the stories on air. There's even people who are trainers within the sector who would provide training and skills. So I would say my encouragement is the opportunities aren't just behind the mic. Don't get into radio to be famous. Find a place for yourself and build your skills, finesse it, and master that area. And I think you'll see yourself excel beyond just where you would have started, even if it was podcasting or a community radio station.
Well, that is the powerhouse of broadcasting. The CEO of Media Development and Diversity Agency, CEO Sishweshwe Kur. Sishweshwe, ke a leboga for ke nako ya hao and for your contribution and taking.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Portia Mbambo. It's been a great pleasure to have you with us. But remember, community radio has been a very powerful force for change over the last 30 years. It has gave a voice to the voiceless and shaped the democracy of the country. As we celebrate the World Radio Day today, let's continue to support and uplift the vital sector. Thank you to all our guests and thank you for listening. Until next time, goodbye.